Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys, based on the time zones you all are coming from. So, guys, my name is Neeraj Keria, and I have been working in this IT industry for close to 12 years now, where I have been leading the global design development teams for designing enterprise solutions. Now, without further ado, let's get started on a discussion on Java libraries. The main agenda for today's session is we'll be learning on Java, on different data types available in Java, how we can get started, what are different data types, what are different conditional statements, what are different functions available in Java, so that we can have a fair understanding how Java works, how Java is structured, so that we can continue working on it in our subsequent sessions. Now, Java, as we know, is one of the main, or we can say that is not one of the main, but the main driving force for different devices, for different technologies, for almost every vertical that we can think of. Again, it is widely used for financial services, for it is a main driving force for the entire Android platform, which powers almost 85% of smartphones globally. Then again, it is one of the main driving force in which the entire map reduce programs is built on top of, as a component for big data. The entire stock markets they run on the Java program, the scientific research, information technology, banking services, retail segments, even as simple as the cash registers, they all work on the principles of Java. So Java and all the other languages we can think of, be it Python, Scala, so any kind of languages, they all have been derived out of Java itself, right? So if we are comfortable with Java, then again, we are comfortable in almost every language available out there because Java is the base. Java is the base for every other languages. If we are comfortable with Java, we can excel in any other department, right? And Java, again, it is also one of the main, we can say, main framework used for web development as well, right? Like as we know, again, we have AngularJS, we have the Node.js. Again, these all are derived out of the Java concept itself, right? In terms of framework, we have Spring, we have ThemeLive, we have Hibernate. Again, these are all the frameworks available in Java which we can use for developing robust applications, robust and modern applications. The entire big data is also again running on top of Java programs itself. So here we don't use Python. So here we use Java as a core driver for the and for writing all the programs also in big data. Then we have the entire Android platform, even the Kotlin that is being used currently, it is also running on top of Java platform itself, right? Now, if we talk about features of Java, then again, Java, as you know, is the simple language to start with as we compare it. Now, it is not simpler as compared to Python, but again, it is simpler as compared to other traditional languages like we have C, C++, where we have more robust components available as compared to the other languages, right? Python is even easier than Java, but again, it has its own implications and usage, right? Again, it is secure. It is one of the most secure languages because again, if we develop any program or any security components in Java, again, we have multiple security measures that we can lock it down to, right? So we can have a complete control on what kind of data set will be have, what kind of access should be given to any data pointers or any system when we have a thorough understanding of how exactly Java components are structured. It is portable. That means again, Java programs are compatible to almost every other platform that we can think of, right? And that's what it makes coding in Java makes it highly portable. That means we can easily port the entire component from one platform to the other easily, right? It is dynamic. That means we can integrate it with third-party applications and multiple other APIs easily, right? It is robust. It provides high performance because again, the entire application requires we have a better memory allocation or memory management system available, and that's why it provides a high performance as a main driving force for application, be it a web-based application or be it any kind of program that we are currently creating, being the object-oriented programming. So basically, we know that we have two types. We have object-oriented, and then we have procedure-oriented. So object-oriented provides multiple advantages over procedure-oriented programming, and that is what Java is all about as the main driving force for project, or we can say object-oriented programming here. And Java, as we know, is basically a simple language to use here. It is portable. That means it can be used from, it can be used, it is easily readable, it is easily writable. Again, it is easily executable as well on different platforms, be it Ubuntu, Red Hat, FreeBSD, Microsoft, or we can say on Apple devices or even on PlayStations as well. So we have It is completely platform independent here. It is all object oriented. That means everything is developed all, or we can say surrounding the object, the concept of objects. That means each and every entity is considered to be an object, and all the operations are performed using these objects only. That we will be focusing on as we continue further, right? Again, it is well distributed. That means again, if we define any component in one class, then that can be easily imported. That means one program can invoke the method declared in some other programs and makes it much more easily distributed, like we can say distributed network. Again, it is dynamic. That means again, it can be used. It can be again used to verify and resolve access to the objects at a runtime itself. That means we don't have to stop the entire application. It can be done while the application is in the running phase itself, right? So that's why we can simply check the code during the compilation time and runtime also, and the entire memory allocation and releasing is all taken care. That means entire memory management is taken care automatically by Java, right? Now, before we can get started on Java, we do need something as JDK, called as Java Development Kit. Now, Java is not a scripting language. So for example, if we talk about HTML, if we talk about CSS, if we talk about JavaScript, these are all our scripting language and they do not need any kind of compiler servers. But in terms of Java, Java is not a scripting language. Java is a programming language where we need a compiler first so that it can compile the entire code. It can check for the flow and for the any kind of errors, and once it is considered and once it has been checked thoroughly, it is okay to go. Then only the code will be executed as per the logic that has been defined in that particular code altogether. And that's why we have now here we have three main core components. We have JVM, JRE, and JDK. JVM refers to Java Virtual Machine, where it consists of where we have Java class libraries and all the other files available as a part of the JRE itself, right? So JVM, or we can say as Java Virtual Machine, it simply works like a client. We can say as a client and server virtual machine, right? Whereas if we talk about the libraries, right? Then we have multiple libraries for performing multiple operations for math libraries, collections, referring objects here, preferences APIs, instrumentation, management, and same way for other base libraries includes beans, security, networking, input, output, extension. So these all are different libraries available in Java, in JRE as a part of JRE and base libraries that we can simply use to pull, or we can say simply pull some common functionalities that we can use, that we can simply import and start building on top of it. Just like we have multiple libraries available in Python, which we can directly import and then we can start customizing it. Same way here we have multiple base libraries that we can use to get started. For example, as simple as we have JDBC. A simple example, a simple layman terms here, we have JDBC. What exactly we mean by JDBC? Absolutely, guys. So JDBC refers to Java Database Connectors, where it is simply used for connecting to connecting our application to any existing database. Specifically, if we have, suppose, for example, we have a MySQL database, right? For connecting application to that database, we have to use the JDBC drivers, right? So again, these are all the different libraries available in JRE, right? Java Runtime Environment. And again, the entire JDK consists of multiple tools and rules APIs as well for monitoring, for Java files, for Java database, for GDPA. Again, these all are components as a part of entire JDK, which is required in order to run the entire application altogether, right? And now let's discuss on how exactly Java works. So Java, whenever we create any code in Java and we simply compile it, right? So now whenever we compile the entire code here, the Java code is converted into Java bytecode, right? And bytecode moves locally through the network where it is sent to Java interpreter and just-in-time compiler. And this is linked to the entire runtime system where the entire code is interpreted in terms of the bytecode verifier simply converts entire code into the bytecode, and then it is passed on to Java interpreter, right? Where it simply interprets the entire code here and plug it in the runtime system, and that's how the entire code is being executed. And if there are multiple other libraries are also referred here in the entire code, then again the Java class libraries are referred to whenever the code is running and in the bytecode verifier state as a part of JRE. as a part of Java runtime environment. And the entire compilation and the interpretation is done by using the JVM, as in Java Virtual Machine altogether. Now, Java is not available by default. We can do two things here. We can either install Java package separately from the given link here called oracle.com. We have Tech Network, Java SC downloads. And from here, we can download the entire JDK that we need to install into our local system, in which we are planning to develop on top of Java. And we have multiple other IDEs as an integrated development environments, which we can use to get started on developing applications on top of Java framework. Like we have IntelliJ, we have Eclipse, we have Atom, we have Jupyter. So there are multiple. We have Visual Studio Code as well. We have multiple editors that we can use to get started. We have multiple IDEs that we can use to get started on developing on top of Java framework. So in here, from this page here, we can simply download first of all, we have to download the entire Java platform JDK. And then once we install JDK here, then we have to simply go ahead and open up our system settings. Now under system settings here, we have to right click on my computer, and under advanced system properties, we have the advanced tab. And under advanced tab, we have something as environment variables. And in here, we simply have to link. Now we have to simply link the environment. Now here we have to simply edit path, and then we have to define the path of the JDK package that we have currently installed here. We have to simply make sure the entire the default path is set to C program files JDK and under the bin folder, so that we can set up the entire Java or we can say Java system into our local machine, especially when we are running this on top of Windows. And then we have multiple Eclipse. So here we can use IDs, like we have Visual Studio. We can also use Eclipse, or we can also use IntelliJ, depending upon which ID we are comfortable with. There is no restriction that we have to use only Eclipse, we have to use only IntelliJ or any other platform. We can choose exactly as per our requirement. We can choose accordingly. And we can open this link here for installation of Java here. And then if we want to install Eclipse IDE, then we can choose Eclipse, or we can choose the community version of IntelliJ if we want to get started. So IntelliJ offers one community version as well, where it acts like a lightweight version that we can use to get started and developing it for free. And same way we have Visual Studio Code as well. So we can either download IntelliJ, or we can either download Eclipse as well, depending upon our requirement and ease of use. In case we have been using this before, we can simply go ahead and download these. So you can also go ahead for IntelliJ as well. Let me share this link with you all. Here you go. So we can download both the ultimate and the community version as well, where we can simply, now if we are planning to develop only on top of core Java itself, that means we need a JVM and the Android development, then we can use community. Or if we are going for complete web enterprise development, then we can get ultimate, for which we also get 1 month of free trial that we can use to practice on top of it. So I have shared the link with you all guys for both, which we can use to get started. Now, once we do the entire installation for Java here, we can simply open up our ID that we are currently using as a part of IntelliJ. And again, it is not mandatory to install and use any of our local IDs. If we don't have the access to that system as of now, we can also use multiple online Java compilers that we can use for getting started, or for seeing the actual hands-on on top of the online compilers available that we can use, right? For example, if we want to use multiple online compilers, we have multiple compilers that we can use to get started with. One of them is Joodle, which we can use here. So we have JDoodle. So we can simply use this compiler as well. If we don't want to install the entire ID into a local system, then again we have this online compiler that we can use. We can simply specify our entire command, and then once we click on execute, we would be able to execute the entire Java code that we have currently entered here using this online compiler. And once you are done with the entire installation for Java as well and the IntelliJ, then this is the entire project that we can use to get started. So now for starting a new project here in Tenergy, we can simply click on File, New Project. We can choose what kind of project we want to create here. We want to create project for Java, Android, Maven, Gradle, Groovy, Kotlin, depending upon our requirement. Kotlin is basically used for the Android development right now. And once we are done with the entire setup here, this is a type of project that will be initiated for us, right? So now we can get started on our discussion here. So first of all, we do have multiple data types available in Java. So in terms of types of data available in Java here, we have integers, we have float values, we have character values, and then we have Boolean values that we can go ahead and create here, right? And integer, now as a part of integer here, we can have multiple types of integers also available. Like we have byte, where we have long, short, integer available as a part of data types available in Java, right? So integer, as we know, again, it stores the whole number, positive or negative. Floating value, or we can say float value, simply represents numbers with the decimals, right? As a decimal itself. Whereas in character, we can simply define the character as in, if we want to store only alphabet value, then we have Boolean. Just like we have string, where it stores both alphanumeric characters, and then we have Boolean, where it can store true or false data type, right? And first of all, we have integer as bytes, right? So byte can store whole numbers from -128 to 127 bytes, right? And then we have, now let's get started. And then we have short. Now short is basically used for storing whole numbers from -32768 to 32767 as a part of short values, right? And then we have integer. So integer is basically used from any numbers from -21478.7483648. And again, these type of data sets can be easily available as a part of integer values. Now let's get started on how we can declare these data types available in Python. For example, let's suppose here we want to declare any kind of values here. For example, here we want to declare values for in the format of integers or short, or we can say byte. Then what we can do, we can simply come back to our editor, to our IDE. Now in here we can choose a byte value. Suppose here we want to declare something as byte, right? And in here we can define the name. Suppose here we want to declare byte as digit. Suppose byte as digit, right? And then we can define, suppose we want to have digit defined as 55. We can define as 55. And then we can define, now if we want to print out this entire statement here, we have system.out.println. If you want to print this out here, we have system dot out dot println. Ln is used for printing always in the next line. And then what we want to print here, we want to print digit. We want to print digit here as a part of an entire simple command that we want to execute. Now remember, whenever we are writing the code in Java, we have to take care of multiple syntaxes and semicolons out there, because without these we won't be able to print the entire statement correctly, right? And once we are done with the entire code, and in case, now the main advantage that we get as a part of these IDs are, in case there has been some kind of errors. For example, let's say we missed out on this entire thing here, right? Then this will be highlighted so that we can be aware of, okay, that something is wrong, something is missing, and we have to correct this. For example, suppose here we don't add this value here, right? As you can see now, this entire thing will be highlighted here as a part of the error, right? So we can, these things, they actually help the developers in making sure that they are, if they, even if they are conducting, or we can say, if they, even if they have some kind of errors available, then we can know what those errors are, so that we can try to fix on those issues, right? And once we are done, if we want to run this entire code that we have currently created as a part of the Java class here, we can simply click on run, and then we can see the entire program being compiled, and the results will be showcased as a part of the entire compiler here. As you can see now, the entire digit has been printed as 55, right? Same way here we can define for short values, here we can define for integers, for suppose here we want to save something for integer, right? For example, let's say here we want to define a float value as well. For example, here we want to define integer, right? Integer as any number. Now we can define, suppose we want to define this for any number. We can define the entire value here, correct? And again, if you simply click on run, we would be able to see the entire value being showcased to us. Same way, if we want to define any kind of float value here, right? Now, float, we have to make sure that whenever we are declaring any float value, we have to make sure that we are ending the digit by f. We are ending the digit by f here. For example, in here we define, okay, we want to keep digit as a float value. We can define it as float, and then here, suppose we want to say this as float value. Suppose I say this is 55.65, right? And if we want it to be float value here, we have to mention this as f, because without f, this won't be treated like a float value here. We have to mention f towards the end in case it has been a float digit itself. Again, we want to compile this up. We can simply click on execute, and now the entire statement has been printed with the value for float. Same way for double. Same way for double. Again, we have to make sure that we are placing this as double here. And again, just like float value, we have to make sure that we are ending the float value with D. All right. Now, you may have certain questions here why we should be going for double and when should we going for float. So float or double, they are almost the same with having no differences. There is only a single difference between float and double. So float is only valuable. Float is only valuable for decimals up to 6 digits, right? Whereas double is valuable for, or we can say double is more accurate for data having up to 15 digits in terms of decibels, right? And that's why if we are unsure of the number of places our decimals would be, it's always a good practice to use double instead of float. All right, so that is what we have the entire properties for float. That's how we can declare data types available in Java. Same way, if we want to define this for, suppose if we have some kind of Boolean values available, right? And now if we want, now, for example, let's say in here, we want to declare some kind of Boolean values, right? So what we can do, suppose here we can define, in here we can define the Boolean value here. For example, suppose Boolean we can define, let's suppose we have learn, like we have a learn now. If suppose if we are learning, yes, if we are learning, when we have true value here, then we can save as true, and then we can simply define Boolean, and we have not learn. Again, we can save this up. We have not learn. We can save this as false, because again, this Boolean accepts only two values here. Either it can be true or either it can be false here. Either it can be true or false. Or basically here will be focusing on, as you can see now, digit has been converted into has been transformed to red, because again there is no digit being defined here, right? That's why it simply showcases, okay, that there is some error, there is some missing value here that we have to sort, right? So in here we can in here we want to print learn, and in here we want to print not learn. So again, this will return the entire value stored in there. Now we will be linking them with multiple sections for logical as well as in the conditional statement. But again, if we simply go ahead and execute this is how it will be showcased as true and false value for the null and not learn value that we have defined as a part of Boolean. And now if we want to showcase, now suppose say here we want to use something as character, right? We want to declare a simple character value here. So what we can do, we can simply, now we can change this part here. Suppose our character is basically used for defining, suppose we can say defining a single character itself, right? For example, let's suppose we want to declare something as class, right? For example, character, and we have something as grade. We want to showcase something as grade itself, right? Suppose here we have to store values that we have, suppose grade as A, right? And then we can simply keep on we can keep on we can say storing grade as well, right? We can keep on storing grade as well. Suppose we have grade as A, right? Then we can store as A itself. Now in here, suppose let's say we want to print this character here. We can simply choose to print grade, and the grade value will be stored as a part of character. We can simply run this up, and now will be showcase the entire grade that we have saved as a character value here. All right. Suppose let's say we copy the entire code and we try to run the entire code in any of the online IDs that I have shared with you all, right? For example, here we have other online IDs. For example, we had discussed, okay, we are focusing on the ID, the online ID called JDoodle, right? So suppose if we want to use the Java compiler here, we can simply replace entire code that we currently created, right? And again, if we simply click on execute, the entire code will be executed, and now we are given the entire statement here as A. So you can use this code for any other IDs, regardless of the ID that we are using here. So are we clear on this part now, webinar restaurant? Now, once we are done with these are all different data types available in Java that we can use to get started. Same way we have for strings as well. So these are different data types available in Java altogether. So now let's get right back. That we have discussed on the concept of character on Boolean value, and same way that we have a simple problem statement by John. Now John owns a retail store, and now John wants to create a bill. Now John needs to create a bill here. Having the bill will be having invoice ID, product cost, quantity, discount, total price, feedback provided. So okay, in this part here, the invoice ID will be integer in case it is totally number. Same as for ID, the costing will be for double, where we want to handle the decimal values as well. Same way for quantity, quantity will be a simple integer because it cannot be as in a decimal value. Same way for discount will be a double, total price will be double, and feedback will be a Boolean value, having the entry as true or false here, right? And then we have data operations in Java. So now they are just like we have multiple arithmetic, logical, and binary or unary operators here, right? Same way we have multiple operations available in Java altogether, right? First of all, we have arithmetic operations where we can provide that we can go ahead and do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. We can find modulus as in the remainder. In unary operators, we can increase or we can decrease the entire value by one or by one. And then we have relation operators where we can increase, where we can compare this with less than, equal to, greater than, or equal to. And then we have logical operators where we need to check conditions. That means suppose if two conditions have to be fulfilled, if both the conditions has to be fulfilled, or only one is sufficient, right? These things have to be defined as a part of data operations available in Java. Now, in order to perform these kind of operations here, first of all, in terms of arithmetic value here, we can simply go ahead and check and perform these kind of operations available in Java altogether. Suppose if we want to sum any two numbers here, for example, here and here, we can come back to our IntelliJ. In here, we can simply define multiple numbers here. For example, in here we define int x is equal to 99. And then we have int y is equal to suppose 34. Integer suppose z is equal to suppose 54 or suppose 51, right? So now these are different integer values that we define here, right? And again, if we want to perform the calculation here, we can simply define any values. For example, let's say even in z itself, right? We want to add up x and y here. Then we can simply define x plus y, and this will be adding up these two values here. And then here we can simply print the entire sum, that is z. And here we can print the entire sum here, that is z here. Suppose if we simply run this up, this will simply add up both the numbers, and now we have the output as 133 as the addition for these two numbers altogether as a part of arithmetic operations that we had done on top of Java. Same way here we can add, we can subtract, we can multiply. For example, again we can run it up. This will be executed. Now we'll be having the entire solution with us. Same way here we can add, subtract, multiply. We can perform all type of arithmetic operations as a part of Java. Right? And same way, now here we can perform the entire operations on Java, and same way here we have multiple, like says we have multiple assignment operators, right? So basically, if we want to assign values to any variable here, then we can do that as a part of assignment operator. We can simply do that as a part of assignment operator. Now for our assignment operator for see the entire assignment operators, for example, let's say here we have defined integer x, right? we have defined integer x here, and now we want to declare that if we want, first of all, let me share this code with you all. So you can also use this at your reference. Let me share this code with you all. Here you go. Now, if we want to use as now here we want to use the assignment operator, right? So for doing that, what we can do now, we define x is equal to 99, right? Now we want to define if x is or should be equivalent to, suppose, let's suppose 17, right? Then what exactly this means here? This means here that x is now equal to x plus 17, right? Suppose if we want to make sure that we are define this value in such a manner that x is equal to x plus 17, right? That means whatever the value of initial value of x was, and 17 should be added to the initial value of x, that is 99 plus 17, right? So instead of writing this statement here, what we can do, we can simply use a shorthand as a part of assignment operators, right? And now suppose if we try to print x, if we try to print the value of x here, then we would be getting the exact value of x. So if we simply click on run, the actual value of x will be printed, that is 116, because now 17 has been incremented to the current and existing value for x itself as a part of assignment operators altogether, right? Say we suppose, let's say we want to multiply this by 17, we can simply replace plus with the asterisk here. We can simply replace plus with asterisk. Again, we can run this up, and now we'll be having the entire product of 99 and 17 here, right? Same way here we have multiple other assignment operators. For example, here we use AND. Here if we use AND here, again if we run this up, as you can see now here we're getting only 1. So are we clear on the concept of assignment operators, guys? Please give me a quick information. Are we all clear on the concept of assignment and arithmetic operators so far? Now, once we here we have defined this for all the types of data operations available in Java as a part of arithmetic and assignment operators, right? Same way here we have comparison operator as well. For example, suppose we want to compare between any two values. For example, we want to check if one value is greater than or equal to, or suppose it's simply less than the other value. Then what we can do, we can come back to our Eclipse. Here, suppose, let's say here we have two values defined here. Suppose here we have x defined as 99 and y defined as, and here we define integer y as 17, here. All right, so now in here, suppose say we want to check for between x and y values, right? So here, if you want to check if x is greater than y, then it will again, now if we simply click on execute, this will check if x is greater than y, then it should return true, which is true itself, right? Because x is 99 and 99 is definitely greater than, we can say greater than 17. Suppose if we add this as 177, and now if we simply run this up, now this will return false. Why? Because now 99 is not greater than 177, right? So that's how we can simply check for the values here one by one. So suppose same way here we can simply suppose, let's say here we want to check if it is greater than or equal to, again it will simply check for that value as well. For example, if x, suppose if we come back, if we reduce it down to 17, and suppose if we change this for, if we check, okay, if x is either greater than or equal to y, then suppose if we simply click on run again, then this will return true. Why? Because one value has been true, one value has been satisfied. That means x is greater than y. Although second value has not been satisfied here, but one value has been satisfied, and that's why it is being returned as true, right? And then we have logical operators. That means suppose if we want to check if both the conditions are true, then only it should be returned as true, right? For example, here again we have two values, right? And now we want to check, suppose if x is greater than y, and now this is how we use AND operator, and if x is equal to 99, or suppose if x is less than 100, if x is less than 100, then only this should be returned as true, because now here what we are doing, we are simply checking two conditions. If x should be greater than y, and x is should be less than 100, then only it should return true. So if we simply click on run, then it is being returned as true because both the values has been satisfied. But now suppose if we change this, suppose if x is greater than y and if x is greater than 100 as well, then only it should return true. Now this condition is true here, but this one is not true, right? Then this will, if we run this up, this will return false. Why? Because both the conditions have not been fulfilled. Because when we're using the AND operator, both the conditions has to be fulfilled, not just one, right? And again, if we wanted to make sure, okay, only if only one condition is fulfilled, then we can use the OR operator. Then we can use the operator such as OR, right? So that either of the, suppose if either of these two conditions are fulfilled, then also it should return, it will return simply true. As you can see now, it has been returned as true because even though this is not fulfilled, but this has been fulfilled, and that's why this has been returned as true, right? Next says we have control statement available in Java. So control statement is when we want to check for conditions, right? Like for example, if we have multiple if-else statements, if we have multiple conditions, and now we want to check if one condition is fulfilled, then only it should be fulfilled here. And then if we want to iterate multiple statements, if for example, if we want to iterate do-while statements, right? Then we can do that easily using the do-while statement, and we have do-while loop here. Now, for example, if we have multiple conditions to check, here, then we have conditional statements, and we can use, then we can take the usage of conditional statement here as simple as if else, right? Now, for example, let's suppose we can come back for understanding this. We can come back to our Eclipse, to our IntelliJ, to ID. Now, in here, we have two numbers here, right? And now, if we want to check if these two numbers are true, or suppose if we want to check a simple condition, right? Then what we can do in here, we can define the condition if, and then in the brackets we have to define the condition. Suppose if x is greater than y, if x is greater than y here, then it should print the given statement. Now we can define the condition here, right? The statements. Then it should print the given statement here as system.out.println, and then here we can define the statement. Suppose we want to print x is greater than y. This should be printed, right? And then we can execute this as a part of the given statement here, right? Now, if we simply execute this part here, then as soon as this condition is fulfilled, this statement here will be printed. As soon as this condition is fulfilled here, this statement here will be executed. Okay, that x is greater than y here, right? And suppose if it is not fulfilled, for example, in here we simply inverse things here. If we simply click on run, then again this statement has not been fulfilled. That means now nothing is being executed. Nothing has been executed here. Why? Because nothing has been running, correct? So now what we can do is we can simply define one else statement as well. That means suppose if this condition is fulfilled, then these statements should be carried out. Or if the condition is not fulfilled, if this condition is not fulfilled, then what should happen? Then there should be another statement as else, and then we can define that else it should print. We can copy the statement just to save our time. Then we can print y is greater than x. We can run this up. As you can see here, this condition is not fulfilled, right? Then that's why this statement has not been executed. And now we have defined if this condition is not fulfilled, else this should be executing this statement here. And that's exactly what has happened. This is not fulfilled, and that's why this has been, and that's why this statement has been printed as in y is greater than x value here, right? And same way if we have multiple conditions, for example, let's say here we associate this in real-time example. For example, in here currently we have something for, let's suppose r as in time itself, right? Suppose if the current r is, suppose let's say currently it is, if it is 18, or suppose if it is currently default, by default we had defined this as 18 itself, right? Now, or suppose 24, since we have 24 hours. Now if we can define a condition, suppose if r is less than, suppose if r is less than 12, print good morning. It should simply print good morning. Again, if we want to add multiple statements, if we want to add multiple statements here, then we can keep on adding else if, right? So same way here we can, now after this one here, we can simply add one other statement as in else if, right? If we have multiple conditions to check, suppose if we have multiple conditions to check here, we can define this as a part of else if statement, right? And suppose here we want to check the same thing, else if r is less than, suppose if r is, suppose less than 18, suppose less than 18 here, this should simply print good afternoon, or suppose good afternoon or good evening. It can be anything, just as an example here. And suppose else, it should simply print good evening. In terms of, suppose if it is later than the given statement here, it should simply print good evening. It should simply print good evening itself, right? So now as you can see, currently it is what? It is simply 22 itself, right? Suppose the currently if it is less than 18 here, again it should be simply printing what? Suppose currently it is what? Suppose currently it is 20, as in 8 o'clock, right? Then suppose if we simply click on execute, as you can see, currently it has printed good evening, because currently it is past than 20 itself. As a part of simple if else statements, as a part of simple if else statements here. Coming back now, just now we have seen, okay, how the entire concept for else if and else if works. But again, if we have multiple statements, and now we don't want to keep on using the same if else again and again, then for doing now for just for avoiding these nested part here, what we have something as switch. We have something as switch statement altogether, right? So in here, what we can do is, for example, as simple use case, what we have a switch statement. So in switch, what happens? We can simply add multiple conditions, and without having the need for again going forth like again going back and forth with the else if. If we have, suppose if we have 10 statements, or if we have 10 different conditions to check, instead of using every time if, else if, we can simply define this as switch, and then each and every conditions can be mentioned as a part of case, right? So what we can do is, here we can define, suppose in here we are defining the, in here we are checking the day exactly, right? So for example, currently we have r as 20, right? Or suppose if we have multiple conditions to check. So for example, in here we have defined integer. Okay, as I've shared the code with you all, let us just clear this out just to avoid any kind of confusion. Now in here we are going to check which day it is, right? So in here we can define initial day is, suppose currently it is 5th day, right? And currently now today is what? Today is Wednesday itself, right? So again, let's say we keep it as 3, because Wednesday is the 3rd day of the week, because the week's day starts from Monday. So Monday, Wednesday, and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, right? So currently we have defined this as day as 3 itself, right? And now we can simply define this as a switch, and in here what exactly we want to use to check here? We want to check days. We want to check the current date. That means which day it is. We want to check that part, right? And now we can keep on defining multiple conditions as a part of, okay, we press one parenthesis here. So now we want to check, the multiple statements here. We want to check multiple statements here as a part of our entire statement altogether, right? Just a moment. Now in here we can use switch, and now what we want to check, for days, right? And in here we can simply keep on defining multiple statements. Now first of all, here we can define the first case as case 1, and then we can define what exactly we need to check here, right? We can define the statement here. So case 1, suppose if case 1 as in if the day is 1, case 1 as in if day is 1 here, then what should happen? It should simply print out system.out.println. It should execute the statement that today is what? Monday. If the date is 1, if the day is 1 here, suppose if we would have been checking numbers, right, then we could have defined the condition here. For example, in here we would have two numbers. Then in here we could have defined if x is less than y, then print this statement here, just like we have been doing in if else, right? And we can end it with a simple semicolon here. I suppose as soon as this condition is fulfilled, it should simply break away from this entire switch statement itself using break, right? And same way we can keep on defining multiple statements. For example, next is we can define this for case as well, as in case 2. Now what should be the case 2 here? Again, if the day number is 2, it should print what? It should print it is Tuesday, right? See, and then again, if this is fulfilled, then again it should simply break away again. Same way we can keep on defining other 5 cases one by one. So we have case 2, we have case 3, case 3 for Wednesday, case 4 for Thursday. Let's close this one. Case 4 for Thursday. Case 5 for Friday. Same way here we have to add 2 more cases for the weekend as case 6 and case 7. Case 6 for Saturday, because again if we use the day program, then this is the default value for days. The day starts from Monday where the number is 1, 2, 3 and 4 and so on, right? So here we can define the entire days here. Now as you can see, now we have defined all these 7 cases here. We have defined all these 7 cases here, right? And now if we simply go ahead and execute this part here, if we simply click on run, it will check for the current day and what day it is. It is Wednesday, and that has been printed here. So as soon as this condition is fulfilled, this has entirely this has broken the entire switch statement, and now it has been, the entire statement here has been printed as in Wednesday. So now next is we have while loop here. We have the while loop. So now in here what we can do is, now in here if you suppose, now we have something as while statement. Now in here we can, what we can do using while is we can work on loops, right? So loops, as we know, it can keep on executing until and unless a specific condition has been fulfilled, right? That's what the entire concept for loops are. And again, using the while loop, we can simply create that entire, we can say, continuous blocks of code which can be executed until and unless a condition has been fulfilled. Then only it can break away from that particular condition itself, else it will simply continue running the loop itself, right? For example, suppose in here we want to print a specific set of numbers, right? Now let's erase this entire switch statement. Now in here what we want to do is, suppose in here we have defined integer day as 3, or suppose integer num as 3 here, or suppose let's say we remove this one, we define simple integer here and we keep the default value at 0. We keep the default value at 0 itself, right? And now in here we can simply use a do while loop here. That means now in do here we can simply define the condition as in we want to print the entire command here, system.out.println, and now we want to print the value of I, and now we want to keep on printing the value of I here. We want to increase the value of I every time, right? So for that we can use the increment operator as I plus plus, and now we want to keep on printing the value of I until now while the I value, the value of I is, or we can say, remains less than 10, remains less than 10 itself. That means what will happen? This entire while statement will, this entire do statement, the do statement will keep on iterating itself one by one until and unless this condition is fulfilled. Right? That means in here, if we simply click on execute on run, this will print 10 numbers, and as long as you can see here, it's started back from 0 when 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now as soon as I becomes equal to or greater than 10, now the entire loop has been broken, right? Suppose if we want to start this with 5 itself, right? Then again, if we simply again run this command here, then this will start from 5 and until 9 itself, as in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, as a part of do while loop altogether. Thank you so much for joining, guys, and have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye bye.